So let's bring it back full circle to Argentina. And they're obviously, they're now as a country are doing the thing that new people do when they get into it. They think Bitcoin and crypto are the same. How can they're obviously make this as a mistake? And like you said, they're tying themselves into a rock. Can they pull out of this? Can they go, oh, wait, maybe we should change our policy to the one like El Salvador has, where they're all shitcoins are called securities? Do you think they could do that? Do you think Milei is smart enough to do that?
Well, you know, our policy has been, why it has worked is that I think Argentinians are already very smart individually in terms of preserving their purchasing power because they've had so many, you know, currency crises over the past 20 years. So when you go there, and we went there the last time right after the currency was devalued by 40%, like 2 months before we arrived. So we expected to arrive and have some sort of sense of economic crisis, but it was like totally chill. And that's because most people there, well, we were in the, you know, middle class area and staying at the Four Seasons, but, you know, but walking all around, everybody only has dollars or Bitcoin. So they already know how to protect themselves. But the thing is, you know, I know, so obviously Milei is, you know, is an Austrian economist. He calls himself a libertarian. And, you know, there's a free-for-all. He just thinks like everybody can compete for whatever currency you want to use. But at a nation state level, that doesn't work the same as for an individual. And what I'm saying is like the quality of the people that we attract to our country, El Salvador, that come to live here, to build here, to visit here, is just high caliber, high quality people. And, you know, I really believe in, I don't know what it is, like some sort of vibe where when you're surrounding yourself with excellence, you become better and everybody becomes better.
Look at the New York Yankees, right? They got Juan Soto. Suddenly the whole team's playing better.
I firmly believe that who you surround yourself with is key. From having played sports, using the sports example, I mean, I was at my high school football team. We had all this talent, but everyone was fighting with each other, and guys were selfish and me, and we had a losing season. And then I played lacrosse in the spring, and everyone was like team first, and we were undefeated, and we were unofficial state champs. And I saw it. I saw, you know, what the team work together attitude and the me attitude does. And I don't care if it's high school football or Bitcoin or a country. And that's the thing, like you say, that's who's being attracted here. The people that I come in contact, I mean, having been down here 2 months now, and I'm, you know, getting pretty plugged into the Bitcoin community and going to all these meetups, and people are recognizing me from this show. And everyone down here is like, how do I help? How do I build? They're not just down here like, I want to make a bunch of money and buy a Lamborghini. They're like, everyone's bringing their skill set, you know, like. Well,
Milei has effectively said, open the door, said, if you want to scam, come scam. And that's, try it. And, you know, people are free to be scammed by you if they want to be. I think it's you know, there has to be some sort of foundational principles and ethics upon which your economy and your community is built. So I think if you're saying we're open to scams, if you want to try it, like it's a free market. If people want to buy your pre-mined token.
Yeah, he's saying it's a free market and anything can be a currency, and let's see how this all works out. But that would be kind of repudiating the fact that we already went through that. We figured out that Bitcoin is perfect money. So he's not willing to accept the accepted truth, right? He wants to start it all over from scratch and say, nobody knows anything. And so his country's going to lose a decade. They're going to lose a decade or more. They might never, ever gain a foothold into Bitcoin the way it should be, because he himself doesn't understand Bitcoin, and therefore his country will suffer.
Do you think that he has that big kind of Mac Davis, Benny Hill haircut? Do you think that's part of the reason why he's not that smart either, is that crazy hair?
Well, I think it's just there is a school of thought, there are some Bitcoiners who believe this, like that you should be free to scam. And it's up to the individual whether they want to be scammed or not. But I think if you put it at your foundational as a nation state and you're saying we're open to any scam or Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. And you're like, well, that like you can't put or like Bitcoin or any of these 2 million scams. It's like they're two different things and you can't even equate them. You know, it would be like, well, we're open to ethical people moving here or unethical people. Like, it's like, well, do you want, you know, nobody has an immigration policy. Well, except for the US now, I guess, of like, hey, if you're a criminal or a fraudster, like come move to our country. And like, we want you here.
Right.
Like nobody, like you could see that in policies around the world. Like this is not a desired thing. Nobody wants scammers. Nobody wants to be Australia, right? Australia built a country.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just
having all the criminals show up there.
So
And look, it took them hundreds of years to overcome the disadvantage of having, like they have Craig Wright, right? Like that guy was the biggest scammer of all in the crypto space.
So then Argentina is going to be a shitcoin penal colony like Australia was. That's what's going to happen?
Yeah. The Alcatraz of currency.
Well,
like it's not like you're saying, oh, we're going to open the field to competition for this product and let the best product win. Like, oh, we're going to experiment with different bowling balls and see which bowling ball works best for me.
Right.
This is money, and so by nature, it's going to hurt a lot of people if they get involved with scams, the money-related scams. It's like a consumer protection. You find that in products, right? You can't sell cyanide as mouthwash, and you shouldn't be able to sell shitcoins as money. The government, or he's an anarcho-capitalist, so he believes in no government, essentially, which I think is a foolish school of thought, really.
It's just the way he equates them. So it's just, you know, I think might have been Safe Dean is like, you know, the wheel was invented a couple thousand years ago.
Yeah.
And like nobody's been trying to innovate in the shape of a wheel. It's just a wheel, right? A wheel is a wheel and it makes perfect sense. The same with perfect money. We've invented perfect money and you can never, ever, ever do that again in the digital realm. You can never create perfect money like that again because it can only be produced once.
Right, it's irreproducible. But he fails to recognize that.
Yeah.
So therefore, he's consigning his country to failure.
So you're equating that in the minds of people who don't yet know, like you're equating that as that they're somehow equal, that, you know, Safe Moon, which is the one that Dave Portnoy got wrecked on, is the equivalent of Bitcoin. And you can see that, like when we first arrived here, you know, and we're helping out, it's like you could see just on Twitter, like there was the Safe Moon army was here saying like, oh, El Salvador adopted Bitcoin. Well, we have Safe Moon. Safe Moon is like newer, better technology. Now that obviously the founders were all arrested. They're facing decades in prison as well. In the US, the 3 founders who used all the money, scammed everybody, and, you know, including Dave Portnoy. They were here, all those like same sort of Axie Infinity at that time, 2021 was big. It's now, if you look at that chart, it was like soaring and it got a lot of press. It was in the Wall Street Journal. It was in the Financial Times. Like, wow, this new thing that is it going to replace Bitcoin and stuff like that? Because they didn't understand Bitcoin and they didn't understand that it can't be reproduced. And of course, that collapsed to zero too. So anybody who right now is the dangerous time for that, right? For a country like Argentina, because we're just entering the Bitcoin bull market. And when the Bitcoin bull market happens, all the frauds come riding its coattails, right? So you'll have a whole bunch of, I mean, it's hard to tell what this cycle will be like because right now it seems just to be these meme coins, and at least like it's more raw, just like casino stuff. It's like not even a roulette wheel, right? It's more like a slot machine, and some of it comes up lemons, some of it comes up cherries, and that's it. They're not seemingly trying to say we're going to revolutionize your economy and create all these jobs. So maybe this is the last cycle. Just these, like, this is the last dregs of the shitcoin market.
There's only one left from the second epoch or third epoch, and that would be Bitcoin Cash and Roger Ver, who in this bull market is coming out and saying that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin, right? It's the same playbook as Craig Wright, who just is now facing jail. But Roger's like, that sounds good to me. I want to go down that path. And so like Bitcoin.com, for example, doesn't go to Bitcoin because it's a scam. And so, but I think he represents, I wrote about this for Bitcoin Magazine. I think he might be the last of the original 2012 to 2016 scammers that are still scamming the same scam. After that, we enter the Michael Saylor era and the BlackRock era. So I think he might be the very bitter end of that era of scammers.
Yeah, it's curious to see, like, when Bitcoin goes on this big bull run, some of these shit coins are going to have runs as well. And that's when people get greedy and go, oh, this coin was at 15 cents and now it's 250 and I had 10,000 coins. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen as much. I hope it's like you say, Stacy, like it won't, because the Bitcoin hodlers are more and more, and the Bitcoin maxis are becoming more and more. And I think what Milei is doing is actually he's going to help contribute. Like you said, he's probably setting that country back 10 years. He's helping contribute because Argentina will have some probably problem.
I don't think, like I said, my perception of Argentinians themselves, having been there, is that they're very instinctual about preserving their wealth. And they've had a long history just through crap policies and mismanagement of their money. So we've been there and we've seen it for ourselves. Like, we witnessed it firsthand. However, when you open the door and you encourage scammers to move there, you're not going to build anything great. And you need to build that economy. It needs to build a solid foundation. El Salvador has a solid foundation because we didn't invite those scammers in. We don't encourage them to come here. Like Milei is unintentionally, I think. I don't think he means to, but I think, in terms of how he views his economic understanding as an individual, is on an individual basis. And I could see an individual saying, well, everybody's free to be scammed. If you want to get scammed, go be scammed. If you want to go to Las Vegas and play the slots, go play the slots. Who cares? But as soon as you become a head of state, you have to be a leader, right? Like, you have to be like, well, is it really okay for the economy to get scammed? What if your head of like education, your minister of education, or your minister of public works gets adopts some blockchain and scams the entire system, and your bridges and ports fall apart, and you can't do trade deals with China now because you have no port because it's collapsed because it's been stolen by some pre-mined shitcoin. So is that really what how you want to run your economy?
The map is not the territory. So Milei comes in with a map of his orthodoxy as it relates to anarcho-capitalism or Austrian economics. But the territory doesn't fit the map. The map is out of date. The map doesn't work. You have to be in the territory that you're in and navigate accordingly. So he's a leader now. He's a president. He needs to take on those responsibilities. And if, in fact, Bitcoin challenges his orthodoxy, he needs to bend. You don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. That's a very fundamental lesson that almost nobody gets. And Milei hasn't gotten it. He thinks, I know what's best. I heard about Bitcoin. Let me tell you how to fix Bitcoin. He's the classic example of that. And so he's not getting it. And he's going to keep pushing his orthodoxy.
I think he's done a good job, though, like getting rid of like 20, 30, 40,000 government employees and just firing them. That's the beginning of something good. But you need to replace what you're like, getting rid of the plunder, getting rid of that plunder mindset. And remember, that is the part of the reason why they have an economy that kept getting messed up and a monetary system that kept collapsing, is the mindset of the population wanted money printing. The US is going to have the same exact thing. The mindset of the population is now totally on Biden bucks. They totally on write off our student debts, write off our medical debts, write off these debts, write off my housing debt, write off my credit card debts, write off all these debts. I demand it. That's the mindset that you're going to have to overcome. So if you, don't have a solid foundation of like a proof of work economy and a proof of work answer, and invite in these proof of stake sort of mindset, that's the same mindset, right? That invites all the money printing. I just think you're doomed to the same cycle. Whatever it looks like, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to end up looking like. He got rid of some of the symptoms of that mindset of proof of stake. And the symptoms were the currency collapses. The symptoms were a huge bloated government with tens of thousands of bureaucrats who were not needed for the function of a genuine state. But you have to also change the mindsets. And that is something that President Bukele is so brilliant at doing. He's mentioned it so many times that the mindset needs to shift. The mindset is the most important thing for the population. And I think that's in terms of the Bitcoin maximalism and the not encouraging a mindset that tolerates plunder, which is proof of stake. Those tokens and pre-mines are a plunder mindset and a scam mindset. It's a bad mindset to encourage. Sure, it's going to exist, and sure, people like getting wrecked, and sure, people like going to some S&M dungeon. That's you're never going to stop that. But you don't need to.
Shit coins and meme coins. S&M.
Yeah. Shit coins and meme. Yeah.
S&M dungeon. There you go.
But like, if you don't want it to infest all levels of your economy, so if you could set an example at the top of like this is a principle.
The irony is that he's against central banking and he's against fiat money, but he doesn't mind shitcoins, which are central banking and printing money, right? So that right there is a contradiction. He's a man with two minds. They're in conflict. He says he's against central banking, but he's not against shitcoins that are centralized that print the equivalent of digital fiat money. So he's not with his own mind. He's a man of two minds.
Right. He's also pro-Israel, so he's in favor of the military-industrial complex, which if you're against the central banks, the central banks fund the military-industrial complex. So he contradicts himself at every turn.
Don't you want to talk about these red lights and the going down, getting rid of blue lights? Because that's a shifting of mindset, right?
Yes.
This is a shifting of mindset because we're in an age of light now in El Salvador, and we have decentralized money, and now we're having decentralized health. And, we can sit here and point fingers at how other people in the rest of the world choose to live their lives or run their governments and blah, 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 US, blah, 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 Argentina. But what are we doing here? And that's, I think, the most important thing, because we're setting an example for the world. We're the new shining city on a hill. We're the new shining country on a hill. Like, this is all I know, and this is all I can control. So I don't really want to spend too much more time on talking about Argentina and what their decisions are. I could just say I could just say what we've done on a positive, like we've operated on a different method. We'll see who wins. Good luck to him, right? I really hope it works out. I love Argentina. They have amazing food. They have amazing wine. They have amazing country and amazing people. So I hope it works out. But I think we've done a better job, and I think the results are there. And I think the tourism numbers are in, and the Semana Santa was up 30% in terms of tourism into the country over last year, and last year was a record number. The important thing on those tourism numbers that have come out is that since 2019, in the year 2019, so the year before the pandemic, there was 1.7 billion brought in by tourists, and now there's 3.4 billion, over 3.4 billion. So it's doubled in that time, and that's part of the reason. So the security that has been provided because of the gang war and the exception regime has brought in the higher spending tourists. So they always had tourism from, some Salvadorans coming back, but a lot of them didn't. Like, a lot of the diaspora didn't want to come back because they fled the country, and they were afraid to come back because of the danger. But they would have Central American tourism, but now they have Europeans coming in, they have gringo Americans coming in. So they have like higher spending tourists. And you can see that in the data that, there's the actual number of tourists hasn't doubled. It's up like 60, 70%. But the amount of spend has doubled. So you're seeing like people are coming, and a lot of the Bitcoin tourists, by the way, are coming for a longer time as well. They're coming for 2 weeks, a month.
What's the next country?
And then they come back.
This country's achieved a plateau. What's next? Like I'm looking for the next country now.